What if the most important stories don't happen on the battlefield, but in the quiet hours in between? In this corner, we share exactly those moments. The warmth of an old armchair getting a new patch, the quiet chime of an elven harp being crafted, and the taste of a simple dinner by a campfire. Write in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you, so we can all feel a little closer. And now, get comfortable. Imagine the twilight gathering outside your window and a fire already crackling in the hearth. My dear friends, as you sit by your cozy hearth, perhaps with a good mug of ale or a fragrant cup of tea, do you often ponder the things that surround you in your hobbit hole? Not just how they look, but the old, good stories they carefully hold within. How many years, sometimes even centuries, they've served us faithfully, becoming quiet, silent witnesses to our measured hobbit lives, full of hearty meals and unhurried conversations. Here in the Shire, where time flows unhurriedly, and every morning greets us with a fresh breeze from the green hills and the sweet scent of earth after the morning rain, it's easy to forget the true worth of durability, the wisdom hidden in old, time-tested items, true household treasures lovingly passed down from generation to generation. We hobbits are accustomed to valuing substance and quality, but even we sometimes feel the urge for a quick fix when something breaks. It's easy to think of simply throwing it away and replacing it, barely considering that we could breathe new life into it, give it a second chance, extend its good service. But what if I told you that there's a special, almost otherworldly joy, a kind of quiet magic in the art of mending, in taking something broken, worn, almost forgotten, sometimes even despairing, and with your own hands, slowly and attentively, restoring its former beauty, or perhaps even giving it a new, deeper one. This isn't just about saving money or being thrifty, although that's certainly a wise and important part of our hobbit philosophy, especially when it comes to our pantry supplies. It's something much deeper. It's a way to connect with the object, with its past, to feel its invisible but palpable energy, and remarkably, to establish a wonderful connection with yourself, finding inner peace as firm and unyielding as the roots of our home, dug deep into the cozy hill. Today, I want to tell you a captivating yet unhurried story about an old armchair. It's not just a piece of furniture from my hobbit hole. It's an old and loyal friend who has witnessed many cozy evenings by the fire, heard countless heartfelt stories, and quietly creaked in rhythm with its owner's happy sighs. It has stood in the coziest corner of my living room for as long as I can remember, ever since my grandfather brought it from the old mill after he married my grandmother. And, like any devoted companion, it had become a little tired over time, slightly weathered by life. Its upholstery had nobly faded under the rays of the Shire sun filtering through the round window. The padding had uncomplainingly sunken in places, and one of the armrests wobbled ominously at the slightest touch, as if pleading for help and mending. Many would probably have simply taken it to the dump or given it away, saying it had, unfortunately, served its time. But not me, and no true hobbit would. I have a special, very warm feeling for this armchair, as do, I suppose, all who truly appreciate the past and care for it with tenderness and deep respect, just as our ancestors taught us for centuries. For me, mending isn't just a task. It's a ritual, almost a sacred act. It's a blessed opportunity to slow down, to focus on the moment, to immerse myself in a world of wonderful textures, subtle scents, and the quiet, soothing sounds of work. Before embarking on this noble labor, I usually leisurely sip a warm, fragrant cup of herbal tea from my own little garden, gathered personally this summer, sitting beside the object of my care, right by the brightly burning hearth, where dry oak logs crackle cozily. I examine it carefully, inspecting every crack, every scuff, every mark of time. These marks aren't flaws, no. They are wrinkles of wisdom, honorable badges of years lived, telling of its long, rich, and very interesting life, filled with the joys and sorrows of my family. My armchair was made of dark, noble oak, strong and incredibly reliable, like everything made in the good old days. Its once polished surface held the invisible imprints of countless touches from generations of hobbits. Now, it was covered with a thin, almost imperceptible layer of dust and light, barely noticeable scratches. The first thing I started with, of course, was a thorough and delicate cleaning. Gently, using a soft, dry brush, and then a slightly damp cloth, I wiped away the dust of bygone years. Imagine this almost meditative process. Each stroke of the cloth reveals new, deeper shades of the wood, bringing out its amazing, rich color. The subtle, noble scent of old wood, mingling with the light, fresh aroma of the cleaning agent, fills my cozy workshop. It's the scent of stability, the scent of home, the scent of reliability, so familiar to every hobbit living in their hobbit hole. Next came the turn of the long-suffering armrest. It was barely hanging on, and it was clear that the old, long-dried glue had lost its former grip. I took a small, but very sharp and thin knife, and cautiously, with almost surgical precision, began to loosen the joint to carefully disassemble it. The old wooden pegs, once snugly fitted, were now covered with dried glue residue and tiny wood shavings. I meticulously cleaned each part, using the finest grit sandpaper to remove any roughness and ensure the best, strongest possible bond for the new glue. This is one of the most delicate and responsible moments. You mustn't rush here under any circumstances, especially when working on a family heirloom. Every millimeter must be perfectly prepared. The wood glue I use is special, extra strong, designed specifically for carpentry. It's thick, milky white, and smells slightly sweet, almost like almonds. I apply it in a thin, perfectly even layer to both joining surfaces, then press them firmly but gently together. And here, my faithful and reliable friends, the clamps, come to my aid. They hold the pieces together until the glue dries completely, as firmly as an embrace. I tighten them not too strongly, so as not to damage the delicate wood, but firmly enough to ensure the most reliable and strong connection. The slight creak of the wood under the clamp's pressure is a kind of quiet music to my ears, a promise of strength, durability, and future comfort. I leave it like that for a whole day, or even overnight, so the glue can really take hold firmly and reliably. Patience here is your most valuable and indispensable tool, and a hobbit has it in abundance, believe me. While the glue slowly dries, I move on to the upholstery. This is perhaps the most laborious, yet also the most transformative part of the work, where true magic happens. The old fabric, once bright and plush, was now dull, worn, and in places, awkwardly torn. I carefully, step by step, remove it, revealing the chair's inner workings, springs, padding material, jute webbing. All of this also requires my close attention. I check every spring, every strand. Some of them, undoubtedly, need replacing. Their time has come. I use strong linen or jute webbing for the base, and carefully, one by one, sew them to the chair frame. Each stitch, each movement of the needle. It's a slow, rhythmic dance, requiring extreme focus and delicate precision, just like knitting a cozy scarf or weaving an apple basket. Choosing new fabric is always an exciting and very pleasant adventure. I immensely love the natural materials that the Shire provides us. Dense, slightly rough linen, coarse yet soft cotton, perhaps even a warm wool tweed with a subtle pattern. It's important that the fabric is not only beautiful and pleasant to the touch, but also wonderfully strong, capable of withstanding the test of time, just like the chair itself, its wooden foundation. I choose a shade that will harmonize with the dark wood, something calm and incredibly cozy. For example, a deep forest green or an earthy brown, reminiscent of the moss covering our native hills. Once the fabric is chosen, the most responsible and precise stage begins: cutting and sewing. I measure each part of the chair with maximum accuracy, then transfer these dimensions to the fabric using tailor's chalk. I cut out the pieces with sharp tailoring shears. The sound of their gentle glide across the dense fabric always evokes pleasant, almost nostalgic feelings in me, for my grandmother had similar ones when she sewed my waistcoats. Then I take out my faithful sewing machine, old but incredibly reliable, which has served me faithfully for many, many years, inherited from my great-grandmother. Slowly, carefully, I stitch each piece, creating new, perfectly fitted covers for the seat, backrest, and armrests. The sound of the machine, its even, soothing click of the needle, becomes a gentle background noise, allowing me to fully immerse myself in the creative process. There's no place for haste or rush here, only precise, measured work and deep attention to the smallest details, as befits a true hobbit who values quality. When all the covers are ready, the grand moment of assembly arrives. First, I refresh the padding. My chair previously had horsehair, which had become matted and lost its springiness over time. I prefer to use natural latex or high-quality foam padding, which retains its shape much longer and provides truly comfortable and reliable support, like a featherbed. I firmly stuff the seat and backrest, achieving ideal firmness and shape, as if creating a fluffy cloud. Then, step by step, I stretch the new upholstery. This requires considerable strength and dexterity, but the result is worth it. I use a special upholstery stapler, securing the fabric all around the perimeter, pulling it taut so there isn't a single wrinkle or crease, only flawless smoothness. Each click of the stapler is a small but significant step towards completing my creation, towards restoring its former glory and comfort. Then I turn my attention to the wooden surfaces, which have already dried perfectly after gluing. After the glue has fully cured, I remove the clamps. The joint is now strong, monolithic, as if the wood had never been separated. But the wood surface, after all the manipulations, needs a final, most delicate treatment. I take the finest grit sandpaper and gently, barely touching, go over all the surfaces, especially where there were scratches or scuffs. This process is unhurried, deeply meditative, almost sacred. My hand glides over the wood, and I feel it becoming smoother, silkier beneath my fingers, responding to every movement. Wood dust, fine as powder, settles on the surface, testifying to the painstakingly done work. I carefully remove it, using a soft brush, so that not a single particle remains. And finally, the last, most touching touch, applying a protective finish to the wood. I use natural wood oil, which penetrates the fibers, protecting them from moisture and abrasion, and also wonderfully highlights the natural, unique beauty of the wood. I apply the oil with a soft cloth in circular, gentle motions, allowing it to slowly but surely absorb into the wood's pores. With each stroke, the dark oak comes alive before my eyes, its color becoming incredibly deep and rich, and its rich texture emerges with striking clarity. You see the annual rings, the small patterns created by nature itself, which were once hidden beneath a layer of dust and old varnish. It's almost like magic, watching this transformation, sitting in your cozy hobbit nook, to the cozy crackle of logs in the fireplace, the warm, woody scent of the oil, like the aroma of the forest, fills the air, completing this amazing process. I leave the chair for some time for the oil to fully absorb and dry, and then wipe it again with a soft, dry cloth, polishing it to a light, very pleasant matte sheen. And here it is, my favorite armchair. It stands before me, completely transformed, glowing with new life, yet at the same time, absolutely recognizable, familiar. The new upholstery, dense and incredibly cozy, invites you to sit down and relax after a good second breakfast. The wooden parts gleam with a renewed, deep luster, but they still bear those wrinkles of wisdom that make this chair truly unique and priceless. It doesn't look new, no. It looks loved, carefully repaired, ready for new adventures, and long, cozy evenings filled with good stories and kind tea. This is the whole philosophy of my approach. We hobbits live in the Shire, where everything calls us to a measured life. But even here, a certain restlessness sometimes creeps in, urging constant renewal, to mindlessly chase the latest fleeting trends. But there is a special, deep beauty in refusing this mad dash, in taking something old, giving it a new, full life, extending its story, enriching it. Every patch, every carefully mended seam, every drop of oil deeply absorbed into the wood, it's part of a new chapter you write with your own hands, with love and care. It's an act of love, an act of respect for craftsmanship, for natural materials, for the rich history of our land, our families. Mending teaches us incredible patience, for haste is the enemy of good work. It teaches us to truly value labor, not only our own, but also that of others, and to understand that true quality and durability require time and deep attention. It reminds us that objects, like people, have their unique souls, their character, and that this soul only becomes richer and deeper with age if cared for tenderly. When you mend something, you're not just fixing a break, you're restoring a deep connection. You become an integral part of that object's history, adding your own unique chapter, your contribution, as if to an old family chronicle or a record of the Shire. I'm not saying you need to mend absolutely everything indiscriminately. Of course, there are things that truly have served their purpose, their time has passed. But very often, we throw away things that could be saved if only we allocated a little precious time, put in a little effort, learned some basic but incredibly useful skills. Our planet, our fields, our rivers, our gardens, none of it is infinite. They need careful stewardship. And every time we choose mending instead of thoughtlessly buying new, we take a small but incredibly important step towards a more sustainable, more meaningful, and harmonious existence in our beautiful Shire. So, sit in your old armchair, listen to its quiet, familiar creak. Run your hand over the worn but beloved armrests. What does it tell you? Perhaps it's time to give it some love and care. Look closer around you, in your cozy home, in your hobbit hole. Is there anything waiting for your care, your attention? An old book with a torn cover, a favorite mug with a chipped handle, perhaps even your old but wonderfully comfortable shoes that are a bit worn out after long walks across our green hills. Give it a try. You'll be surprised how much genuine joy, deep satisfaction, and inner peace this simple but profoundly important process will bring you. And you'll discover that by mending an item, you are in some sense mending something very important within yourself, finding peace and calm in simple yet profound and meaningful tasks. After all, the most precious things are often hidden in simple items and good, constructive deeds. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and share your own stories in the comments below. What if I told you that music isn't just a collection of sounds, but the living breath of the forest, encapsulated in form? What if an instrument could be more than just wood and strings, but the very soul of the grove, whispering ancient melodies and calling us to long-forgotten worlds? Today, we won't just watch this video. We'll embark on an incredible, almost mystical journey to places where ordinary feet have never trod, into sacred depths of the forest, and then into a workshop filled with age-old wisdom. We will witness the creation of a miracle that happens only once in a generation. How an elven harp is born, from the whisper of the forest to its first delicate, crystal-clear notes, echoing in the silence. Prepare yourselves, because this isn't just a story. It's an immersion into the very essence of elven craftsmanship, where patience, nature, and magic merge into one. Our journey begins not in a noisy workshop, overflowing with complex machinery, but deep in the heart of an ancient, primordial forest, where time flows by its own, unknown laws, and every tree holds the memory of 1,000 centuries. It is here that the Elven Master, whose name is Tarion, but for us, he is simply the Master, keeper of ancient craft, begins his sacred work. He doesn't search for wood. He listens to it. This is not just a metaphor. Tarion wanders among the ancient giants, his palms barely touching the moss on their bark, his ears, sharpened by years of contemplation and practice, catching an unheard call, vibrations that emanate from the most suitable specimens. He isn't just looking for a tree with ideal texture or density. He seeks that which holds a special, inherent harmony, that which resonates with his own soul, with his vision, and with the future song of the harp. Not every tree, even from this enchanted forest, is suitable for such delicate, such responsible work. For the massive frame, which will withstand the colossal tension of dozens of strings and serve as an anchor for the entire structure, Tarion often chooses strong, yet surprisingly flexible ash or ancient maple. These species are known for their ability to transmit vibrations without distortion, preserving tonal purity. And for the soundboard, the harp's heart, its true voice, preference is given to centuries-old, even millennia-old spruce or ancient cedar, whose fibers are arranged with astonishing straightness and uniformity. The density of such wood allows it to respond to the slightest touch, capturing the subtlest overtones, like the breath of the forest. The master spends days, sometimes weeks, simply being near a potential tree, meditating, feeling its energy, before making a final decision. It's important to understand, Tarion does not fell a living, thriving tree. That would be not merely unethical, but sacrilegious for an elf living in complete harmony with nature. He finds wood that has already fallen, yet retains its vital force, its echo. A tree that has completed its natural cycle, but whose soul can still sing, whose energy awaits new embodiment. He performs a carefully calibrated ritual before touching it with an axe or saw. A prayer to the forest spirits, deep gratitude for the gift, a promise to give this wood a new, eternal life in music. And only then, with deep reverence, almost awe, does he separate the desired piece, gently, as if extracting a priceless treasure from the earth's depths. This piece must be flawless, not a single knot, not the slightest crack, not one blemish capable of disrupting future harmony. Only perfectly pure, healthy, living fiber, capable of becoming part of a musical miracle. Transporting the chosen wood to Tarion's secluded workshop is also a separate, almost meditative ritual. He doesn't use cumbersome carts or pack animals. He carries the wood himself, gently, like a fragile, newborn creature, on his strong yet sensitive shoulders, allowing it to grow accustomed to his hands, to his breath, to the rhythm of his steps. He feels every fiber, every unevenness, every curve of the wood. In the workshop, bathed in soft, shifting light filtering through intricate stained glass windows, the next stage begins, the longest and most demanding of boundless patience. The wood must be properly dried. No artificial drying chambers, no accelerated processes, no coercion. Only time, natural air, and natural circulation. The chosen piece of wood is carefully placed in a specially designated area where air circulates freely but slowly, where there are no sudden temperature or humidity changes, where the very atmosphere is filled with tranquility. Years, sometimes decades, and for especially valuable species, even centuries, pass for the wood to naturally release its moisture, for its fibers to settle, stabilize, shrink, and achieve ideal, uniform density. Only then will it become a truly living, pliable, yet incredibly strong material, capable of responding to the slightest vibrations and holding its form under immense tension. This is a period of waiting, but also a period of deep meditation for the master. He doesn't just wait. He observes. He feels. He prepares, his mind already forming the image of the future harp, its sound. And finally, after many, many years, the long-awaited moment arrives when the wood is at last ready. Tarion approaches it, his fingers barely touching its surface. He feels its readiness, its silent consent. The first cuts are made not by a rigid template or blueprint, but by intuition, following the natural grain pattern, its internal flow. The harp's frame is the foundation, its mighty skeleton that will support everything. It must be incredibly strong to withstand the immense, constant tension of dozens of strings, and at the same time, elegant, almost weightless, to be part of a single, harmonious whole. Every curve, every bend is carved by hand, using razor-sharp chisels and knives sharpened with magical precision. There is no room for haste, trembling hands, or errors here. Every tap of a small mallet on the chisel's handle, every movement of the cutting tool, it is a precise, measured action, the result of centuries of experience. The master converses with the wood, as if convincing it to embrace a new, beautiful form, to reveal its hidden essence. The most complex and crucial part is the carving and shaping of the soundboard. This is the thinnest board, which will transmit string vibrations into the air, creating the harp sound itself. Its thickness is measured in fractions of a millimeter, and it must be absolutely uniform across its entire surface, with no slight differences in density. The master works with it like a jeweler, with even greater precision. He doesn't just look. He listens to the sound the soundboard makes when he lightly taps it with his fingertips. He seeks that perfect resonance, that pure, deep echo that foreshadows the future song. Strings will be attached to this soundboard via a special bridge, so it must be not only incredibly thin, but also strong enough to withstand the pressure points. This is a fragile, yet absolutely essential balance between airiness and strength. Tarion carves sound holes into the soundboard, not just round or oval, but curved, resembling intertwining leaves, blooming flowers, or graceful branches. These openings not only allow sound to pass through, but also aesthetically harmonize with the harp's overall organic design, becoming part of its natural beauty. Every detail of an elven harp is not merely a functional element, but a work of art, imbued with meaning. The column, which serves as the main support and bears immense tension, is often adorned with delicate, filigree carving, intertwining forest vines, depictions of mythical creatures, ancient elven symbols associated with music, wisdom, and nature. The carving is done with incredible detail, so fine that it seems to have grown directly from the wood. Every tiny swirl, every minuscule leaf, every scale on the wing of a carved fairy is created with boundless love, patience, and attention. This gives the harp not only incomparable external beauty, but also an additional, intangible magic, as if weaving a piece of the elven people's soul and their age-old history into its fabric. The neck, to which the tuning pegs for the strings are attached, must be perfectly straight, without the slightest distortion, so that the strings lie parallel and do not cause buzzes or rattles. It is also often covered with the finest, barely noticeable carving that enhances its tactile sensation. After all the main parts, the frame, soundboard, column, and neck, are carved, polished to a mirror sheen, and thoroughly checked, one of the most crucial and sacred processes begins: assembly. This is not just gluing disparate parts together. It is the merging of their souls. The master uses special, ancient glues, whose recipes are passed down through generations. They are made from rare natural resins, plant extracts, and minerals that not only securely bind the wood, but also allow it to vibrate freely, without dampening or distorting the future sound. Each joint is carefully checked, every angle measured with incredible precision. And only when all elements are perfectly fitted together, when the harp takes on its majestic finished form, when it looks like a single entity born from one piece of wood, does the most magical, most anticipated part begin: stringing. The strings for an elven harp are a separate magical story, worthy of an entire ballad. They may not be made from ordinary materials. Some harps use gut fibers, carefully collected and treated with ancient enchantments that give them astonishing strength and resonance. Others use the finest silk, cultivated in enchanted gardens, where every moment imbues it with magic. For bass strings, metal threads are sometimes used, but only those containing rare, pure alloys, extracted from the earth's depths, with deep respect for its core. These metals possess unique sonic properties and purity. Each string is chosen with utmost precision in length, thickness, and weight to perfectly match its place on the soundboard and create precisely the note it is intended for. Stringing is a slow, delicate, and highly responsible process. It begins with the lowest bass strings, gradually, one by one, moving to the higher, thinner ones. Each string is carefully threaded through a hole in the soundboard, passed over the bridge, and wound onto the tuning pegs. Gradually, with tiny turns of the peg, Tarion tightens each string, checking its tension, its initial tone. He listens, as the wood begins to respond, how it awakens under new pressure, how its fibers begin to interact with the new energy. This is not merely a mechanical tuning process. This is the moment when the harp begins to find its own unique voice, its soul. The master tunes each string, listening for the slightest deviations, the most subtle overtones. He uses no electronic tuners or external devices. His hearing is a perfect instrument, honed over millennia, capable of detecting even the slightest dissonances, notes that an ordinary ear would simply miss. He tunes the harp, not just to conventional notes, but to sensations, to vibrations that it transmits through his fingers, through his body, through the very atmosphere of the workshop. He seeks not just the correct frequency, but perfect harmony with himself and with nature. This is an incredibly meticulous, exhausting, yet deeply meditative work, requiring absolute concentration, boundless patience, and almost supernatural hearing. Sometimes he takes long breaks to allow the strings to settle, for the wood to adjust to the new, significant tension, for all parts of the instrument to find their final position. And then he returns again, and again, and again, refining every note, every chord to absolute perfection, until the harp resonates as a single, living organism. And then, finally, the most magical and long-awaited moment arrives. Master Tarion, after all his labors and years of waiting, sits before the newly created radiant harp. His fingers, calloused and worn from working with wood, yet incredibly sensitive and gentle, softly touch the strings. He closes his eyes, breathes in the deep, resinous scent of the wood, feels the energy pulsing in the newly awakened instrument. He has waited for this moment for long, long years, sometimes entire decades. And then, the first chord. A pure, deep, piercing sound fills the entire workshop, like a living creature unleashed. This is not just music in the usual sense. It is the very song of the forest, the echo of ancient streams, the eternal whisper of wind through ancient tree canopies, the joyful laughter of elven children, the voices of generations long past. It is a story told by the wood that has finally found its voice and is ready to share it with the world. Every note, every melody drawn from this harp sounds flawless. It vibrates not only in the air, but in the very soul of the listener. The harp sings. It sings of its birth from the depths of the ancient forest, of the hands that gave it form and breathed life into it, of the unimaginable patience that tempered it. The music flows freely, effortlessly, as if it had always been here, in the very air, waiting for its hour to materialize. This is a sound capable not only of healing deep wounds, but of inspiring great deeds, transporting the listener to other worlds, awakening long-forgotten feelings and memories. Tarion smiles. His eyes shine. His work is complete. The harp is alive. It is ready to carry its sacred song into the world, wherever its fate may lead it, wherever its new keeper may call it. This is not merely a musical instrument. It is a living companion, a keeper of ancient knowledge, and an eternal companion, capable of telling stories with its music, comforting wounded hearts, awakening dormant hopes, and inspiring heroic deeds. From the first touch of an ancient tree in the deep forest to the final lingering note that still echoes through the workshop, we have witnessed a true miracle. The miracle of a voice born from silence. The miracle of transforming inanimate material into a living entity. A miracle possible only through the deepest, unbreakable bond between the master, nature, and the infinite, all-encompassing, ancient magic of music. We have followed this incredible journey from silent wood to an instrument that sings, and I sincerely hope that you felt at least a small part of that deep magic, that enchantment that lies within every note of this elven harp, in every touch of its strings. If you enjoyed this incredible dive into the world of elven craftsmanship, ancient art, and music, don't forget to like this video right now to support us and show that you're interested in such stories. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new, equally amazing, and inspiring narratives. And, of course, share your thoughts in the comments. Perhaps you have your own favorite story about creating something truly magical. Or have you ever dreamed of learning to play the harp? Tell us. See you soon on a new, equally captivating journey. What if your most trusted companion, your blade, begins to glow blue at dusk, warning you of danger that has not yet reached you? This is no mere spectacle, no magical trick performed for a display of power. It's a deep, poignant symbol, a silent yet undeniable reminder that even in moments of relative calm, when the world around seems deceptively peaceful and safe, the burden of responsibility never truly lifts. It hangs in the air, like an invisible phantom, constantly felt, ever present, ready at any moment to manifest in all its formidable and terrifying fullness. Today, we delve into one such moment, into a quiet routine that is, in truth, an act of profound, almost sacred courage. We'll witness Frodo Baggins, the ring-bearer, and his elven blade, Sting, at the hour when the last ray of light gives way to a deep, mysterious, and unknown night. Dusk descended upon their makeshift camp, like a soft, velvet blanket woven from shades of deep indigo, piercing crimson, and the last, trembling golden rays that struggled to pierce through the thick crowns of ancient trees. The campfire, which had recently blazed brightly, casting orange and red flares upon the slowly gathering darkness, now merely smoldered, reduced to reddish embers that slowly died, casting long, flickering shadows that danced across the faces of the sleeping companions, giving them a ghostly appearance. The air was cool and damp, infused with the sharp, fresh scent of pine needles, wet earth, and campfire smoke, mingling with the aroma of unseen night blossoms carried by a gentle breeze. It was in such hours, when day finally yielded to the silent, all-encompassing night, and the world plunged into its own unique stillness, full of the rustlings of unseen creatures, the whisper of wind in the leaves, and distant, indistinct sounds, that Frodo found time for his unchanging, almost ritualistic act. This was more than just cleaning a weapon. It was a profound meditation, a moment of solitude that allowed him to fully feel and embrace the immense weight of his inhuman burden, finding in the process a strange, bitter solace necessary for continuing his journey. He sat, leaning back against the rough, moss-covered trunk of an old tree, his figure barely discernible in the quickly deepening shadows, becoming practically part of the surrounding landscape, merging with it into a single whole. In his hands, like a living, breathing creature, lay Sting. This small but astonishingly sharp elven blade, an unforgettable gift from his uncle Bilbo, had been a witness to countless adventures undertaken by its first owner in ancient times. Now, it had become Frodo's faithful, indispensable companion on his own, far darker and deadlier path, which led him directly into the heart of darkness. Frodo took out a small piece of soft yet dense leather from his travel bag, long worn and imbued with the scent of the forest, metal, and the numerous adventures they had experienced together. He unfolded it with respectful, careful caution, as if revealing something precious, incredibly fragile, and important. The first step was always the simplest, yet the most important and significant: wiping dirt from the blade. Not the kind of dirt that washes off easily with rain or morning dew, leaving only a clean surface, but the kind that clings after a long, arduous day of travel. The kind that carries the imprint of every mile walked, every hidden obstacle, and every fleeting but palpable threat. He began methodically, from the very tip of the sharp blade, moving cautiously but steadily upwards towards the hilt. His hand made soft, yet persistent, almost circular motions. In every gesture, there was not just habit, but a deeply ingrained, almost instinctive routine, developed over many weeks and months of tireless journeying through unfamiliar, sometimes overtly hostile lands. He did not rush for a second, allowing each movement to be not just a mechanical act, but a fully complete, deeply profound, and absolutely conscious action, as if each wipe was part of an ancient, forgotten ritual, designed to cleanse not only the blade, but also the soul. The surface of the blade was dull, covered with a thin layer of dust, small earth particles, and dried mud accumulated during the day. But beneath this invisible, matte veil lay Elven steel, legendary for its incredible quality, its ability to withstand any trials, and, what was far more crucial in their current, terrifying situation, its unique, mysterious ability to glow a piercing blue light when orcs were near, warning of danger when it was not yet visible to the simple, mortal eye. Samwise Gamgee, Frodo's loyal companion and unwavering guard, sat nearby, finishing his humble supper of leftover biscuit and a piece of dried meat cooked over the fire. His gaze was fixed on Frodo, but it was not idle curiosity, rather a silent, profound observation, full of understanding and empathy. Sam knew this moment was sacred to his master, and he did not disturb his peace with a single sound or unnecessary movement, as if afraid to startle something important. He saw not only the blade slowly regaining its pristine gleam under Frodo's deft fingers, but also the weight that constantly pressed upon his friend's shoulders, which Frodo so diligently and courageously carried, hiding it from unfamiliar, uncomprehending eyes. And in these quiet, repetitive movements, he saw not merely the cleaning of a weapon, but an act of deep, unyielding fortitude, a way to cope with the endless pressure that Frodo's great and terrible burden exerted upon him, preventing him from breaking. For Sam, it was a sight filled with tenderness and deep understanding, for he saw not only his master, but also his closest friend, who daily fought his own battle, unseen by others, yet no less exhausting, against himself and against evil. Frodo ran his finger along the blade, carefully, so as not to cut himself, yet clearly feeling its incredible sharpness, even through the thin fabric of the leather. Then he moistened a corner of the leather with a small amount of water they carefully carried with them, every precious drop of which was worth its weight in gold in these sometimes arid, parched lands. And again, the cleaning process began. Now his movements became more energetic, but no less cautious and precise, as if he feared damaging the precious metal. The dirt, ingrained in the finest grooves of the metal, slowly, almost reluctantly receded, revealing a smooth, mirror-polished surface of elven steel. The blade gradually came alive, as if waking from sleep, regaining its vitality, reflecting the last, faint, fading glimmers of the setting sun, becoming darker, almost black, against the deepening blue of the evening sky, where the first stars had already begun to appear. Each stroke, each sweep of the leather, removed not only dirt from Sting, but also, it seemed, a part of its accumulated weariness, a part of its burden, making it sharp, light, and ready for any trials the new night might bring. It was at this moment, when the last of the dirt was wiped away, when the blade already gleamed in anticipation of the night, when its surface became perfectly mirrored, ready to reflect the furthest stars, that something happened which always made Frodo's heart contract with foreboding, familiar, yet still unsettling. A very faint, almost imperceptible, barely discernible blue glow began to emanate through the steel, coming from the very core of the blade, like a deeply hidden spark of life. This was not a bright, dazzling, screaming light that heralds imminent, direct danger of orcs approaching right here and now, behind the nearest bushes or rocks. No, this was more of a faint, ghostly shimmer, pulsating barely noticeably, as if the blade itself was softly breathing, warning of a distant, yet unseen, but inevitable threat, hovering somewhere in the vast, perilous world. This was not a warning that orcs were nearby, over the next hill, or in the neighboring valley. Rather, it was a constant, insistent reminder that they exist, that evil still roams the world, actively seeking him, that its presence is felt even here, in the seeming solitude of wild, untouched nature, where, it seemed, nothing could disturb the peace. It was an echo of Mordor, carried across space and time, constantly hanging over them, like an invisible, growing cloud of darkness. This glow, however faint, was for Frodo a constant, though silent, yet very eloquent companion. It did not provoke panic, as it might in a less experienced and hardened traveler unaccustomed to such constant vigilance. Instead, it served as a quiet, insistent confirmation of his great and terrible mission, a mute call to constant, unceasing vigilance, to readiness for the worst at any moment. He knew that at any time, this faint glimmer could flare into a bright, furious, piercing blue fire, portending a cruel battle or a desperate flight, signaling the approach of those he feared most, the servants of Sauron. But now, in this silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of a night bird, it was merely a light, barely perceptible, pulsating reminder of the endless danger that lay ahead, of the forces relentlessly seeking him, of the shadow that grew with each passing day and hour, threatening to engulf the entire world. Frodo ran his hand over the blade one last time, his gaze focused, yet not tense, rather thoughtful and full of inner peace. He felt the cold of the metal penetrate through the thin skin of his fingers, how the smoothness of the elven steel resonated at his fingertips, sending a faint tremor up his arm, reminding him of his own fragility. Then his attention naturally shifted to the hilt. It was wrapped in leather, worn from countless touches, permeated with sweat and memories of hundreds of miles walked, of many days and nights spent wandering. Every curve of the hilt was a sign, every seam a story told by silent touches, passed from owner to owner. Frodo gently stroked it, feeling the familiar texture, roughness, where the leather had worn down to its very fibers, and smoothness, where it had been polished by his own palm and the palm of his uncle who held it before him. This was not just a hilt. It was an extension of his hand, an extension of his will, a link between his spirit and the deadly sharpness of the blade, ready for battle. He knew that when the time came, this hilt would be his support, his only hope for defense, his last chance in the most crucial, fateful moment. He held Sting as if it were not merely a weapon designed for killing, but a living creature that also required rest and care, as if it were his faithful comrade, not just a piece of metal. This was not an act of aggression, not preparation for an attack, but an act of deep care and affection. Care for himself, for Sam, for all those who depended on him, for all living beings for whom he bore this unbearable burden, which seemed to weigh on him with every passing second. In this approaching night, full of invisible threats and harboring endless dangers, this small, shimmering blade was not just a weapon, but also the anchor of his resolve, a symbol of his unyielding will and his faith in the ultimate victory of light. Sam, seeing that the ritual was coming to an end, quietly stood up, his movements cautious so as not to disturb the settled silence, and approached Frodo. He said nothing. He didn't need to speak. His presence was more eloquent than any words, any spoken sympathies or encouragements. It spoke of boundless loyalty, of unbreakable support, of deep understanding of the inhuman burden his master bore, and of a complete readiness to share it, to take on a part of the weight. Sam simply offered Frodo a flask of water, warm but surprisingly refreshing after a long day's journey. Frodo nodded in gratitude, took a long, eager draught, and a slight flush appeared on his pale, drawn cheeks, subtly enlivening them in the flickering light of the smoldering campfire. Then Frodo carefully, with his characteristic gentleness, slid Sting back into its scabbard. He did not fasten it to his belt, as many warriors did, relying on instant readiness for battle. For the night, the blade always remained close by, within reach, literally at hand, ready for immediate drawing should danger demand it. It was his last hope, his first means of defense, his silent, yet so important warning. The scabbard was as worn as the blade itself, its leather faded and abraded from long marches, but it still reliably protected Sting's razor-sharp point. It was its humble, yet faithful sheath, guarding it through the darkest hours. This moment, this quiet scene dissolving into the gathering darkness, was a drop of calm, an oasis of serenity in the boundless, raging ocean of constant threat that surrounded them on all sides. It was a poignant reminder that even in the most desperate, seemingly hopeless circumstances, amidst countless dangers, under the unceasing gaze of universal evil, there exist moments of quiet, routine responsibility. Moments when the hero is not battling hordes of orcs or terrifying Nazgul, not saving the world in a great epic battle, but simply caring for his tool, for his soul, for his readiness for the next, even more difficult day. Because it's not just about the great battles that change the destinies of entire worlds and determine the course of history for generations to come. It's also about these small, almost invisible acts of daily resilience, in the steadfastness of spirit that manifests in the most mundane, seemingly insignificant things. In how you wipe down a blade that glows with distant yet pervasive danger, reminding you of itself every night, every hour. In how you feel the worn hilt that knows the weight of your palm and your heart, that has absorbed the sweat of your efforts and fears, yet serves as a silent witness to your fortitude. In how your loyal companion silently watches over you, sharing this unbearable burden, asking nothing in return but loyalty and profound understanding. This is the true, authentic nature of heroism. Not just flashes of dazzling bravery when you stand face to face with an enemy, ready for a decisive blow, but also the unyielding, unseen adherence to your duty, even when the world around you seems like an endless tunnel of darkness, and you see not a single glimmer of light, not a single end to this unbearable trial. It is the deep understanding that every day, every hour, you carry not only a tangible sword, a symbol of strength, but also something far more fragile, yet infinitely precious: hope. And this hope requires the same care, the same attention, and the same gentleness as your priceless blade, as your own soul, which must remain pure. It demands attention, patience, tireless vigilance, and constant, quiet, yet unwavering responsibility. And sometimes, at dusk, when the whole world pauses in anticipation of the night, when all sounds quieten, it is precisely such simple, almost imperceptible actions that speak more of spiritual strength, inner fortitude, and true courage than 1,000 of the loudest words or the most dazzling feats immortalized in legends. Frodo looked up at the sky, where the first timid stars had already appeared, breaking through the veil of twilight, shimmering like distant diamonds on the black velvet of the night sky. The night promised to be cold, perhaps long, but he was ready. Sting, clean and calm, faintly shimmering in the darkness, lay nearby, its light weak but persistent. He was ready for what dawn might bring, or more likely, for what this very night, full of uncertainty, might bring. And in this readiness, in this simple, routine act of caring for Sting, lay the entire essence of his incredible, desperate journey: endless vigilance, unwavering responsibility, and a quiet, yet steadfast, living hope for the best. A hope that this would someday end, and the world would once again see light, cleansed of darkness. If you found this exploration of quiet courage meaningful, please like this video, subscribe for more insights into the tales that shape us, and share your thoughts in the comments below. How often do you really stop to think about nature, not just as a collection of pretty postcards frozen in silence, but as a vast, living ecosystem? A pulsating organism where every blade of grass, every stone, every stream holds its own story, and most importantly, its own value, revealing itself only to those who know how to see it. It's not just a forest. It's a giant, generous supermarket that reveals its riches to those who can read its signs, who speak its language, who are ready for a deep and attentive dialogue. Today, we'll dive into a world where survival and a deep, almost sacred respect for nature merge into one. A world where every root found, every humble leaf, isn't just a resource, it's a genuine gift, bestowed by the generosity of the earth. Picture this. Breathe in this air, a deep forest thicket, pierced by the golden rays of the setting sun, shadows beginning to lengthen, enveloping old, moss-covered tree trunks. And amidst this primordial beauty, a person moves, practically merging with it. He doesn't just pass through it, doesn't walk indifferently along a path. He breathes it, feels it with every cell of his being. He is an inherent, eternal part of it. This is the wanderer. His goal, his sole desire at this moment, is to find what the forest itself is willing to give him, and transform it into a humble, yet incredibly nourishing and warming supper that will provide strength for a new day. For him, the forest isn't just a collection of trees and plants. It's a vast, open book, written in ancient script. Leaves, moss, stones, even the very structure of the soil. He moves through it silently, his gaze sweeping across the ground, the mighty trunks of ancient trees, the shaded clearings where light barely penetrates. Every step is measured, every movement filled with deep meaning and understanding. He doesn't rush, for haste here, in this wild harmony, is the fiercest and most dangerous enemy. Finding edibles in the wild isn't just a happy accident or sudden luck. It's the result of profound knowledge accumulated over many years of continuous experience and a subtle, almost magical intuition that only comes with full immersion in the natural world. Because a single mistake, one wrong plant, can cost not only health, but life itself. So, the wanderer never relies on guesswork or superficial knowledge. He knows. He knows which plants are safe and which, on the contrary, hide a concealed, deadly threat. And his knowledge extends far beyond what can be gleaned from ordinary academic books. He learned this invaluable lesson through practice, through touching the earth, through the scents of herbs, through observing wild animals who are also part of this complex, multi-layered forest community, its rightful inhabitants. Here, he stops at a small, slightly damp clearing, where beneath the shade of ancient oaks, whose crowns reach high into the sky, a thick, emerald carpet of grass stretches out. His eyes, accustomed to picking out the tiniest details from what seems like a uniform scene, spot inconspicuous but characteristic shoots among the green. It's not just ordinary grass, it's something entirely different. It's wild garlic, or ramps as it's often called. Long, delicate leaves, whose light, pungent aroma already reaches the wanderer, barely perceptible, yet so recognizable if you listen to the whisper of the air. He kneels, carefully, respectfully, raking aside the fallen leaves that cover the soil. It's crucial not to damage the rootstock itself, so the plant doesn't die and can regenerate, continuing its life cycle. He carefully snips only a few leaves, leaving the main, larger portion untouched. An inner voice, the voice of wisdom and respect for nature, whispers to him, "Never take all you see, all you can take. Leave something for others who will come after you. Leave something for tomorrow. Leave something for the forest itself, for its continuous life." This deep principle guides his every action, every movement. True respect for nature is what distinguishes a true tracker, not just a consumer. Moving on, as the sun dips lower, he notices leaves at the very edge of the forest, closer to damper, more fertile soil, that at first glance look very much like ordinary sorrel, but on closer inspection have more pronounced veins and a slightly different shape. This is common wood sorrel, or rabbit cabbage, as it's affectionately known. Its characteristic trefoil leaves have a bright, distinctive sour taste, rich in vitamin C, extremely important and valuable in the wild, harsh environment, where every vitamin source counts. A couple of these fresh leaves can perfectly complement any, even the humblest, supper, adding invigorating freshness and a light tang that stimulates the appetite. He plucks only a few, carefully avoiding those already nibbled by forest insects, choosing only the juiciest, most undamaged, and brightly green ones. His gaze drops even lower to the ground, where amidst the damp, fresh-smelling moss, he spots tiny, barely visible mushroom caps. But mushrooms are an entirely separate, very complex, and risky story. The wanderer never takes chances if there's even the slightest, most negligible doubt about their edibility. Today, he isn't looking for mushrooms. His goal is clearly defined: plants, and even more importantly, roots. These provide immediate energy and a deep, lasting feeling of fullness, enabling him to endure long journeys and cold nights. He approaches a gentle, slightly shaded slope, where the soil is much looser and more yielding. mixed with fine sand and gravel. Here, among thick hazel bushes and young growth, he begins to examine the ground with particular care. His attention is drawn to small, unassuming-looking shoots that an ordinary, inexperienced eye would easily pass by, giving them no significance. But the wanderer knows, beneath these seemingly unremarkable shoots lies a true treasure that can save him from hunger. These are the young roots of edible burdock. These roots are not only tasty, but also incredibly nutritious, rich in valuable inulin, a natural prebiotic that benefits digestion. He takes out his small but very sturdy trowel, specifically designed for such occasions. Very carefully, with his characteristic slowness and precision, he begins to dig around the plant. It's important not to damage the delicate root and to extract it whole, leaving no valuable parts in the ground. The earth yields easily. It's pliable and moist, and soon a rather thick, light-colored root emerges. He cleans it of excess soil right there, inspects it, carefully ensuring it's exactly what he needs, with no mistakes. Then he gently places it into a strong canvas bag. A few such roots, and the foundation for his future dinner is ready, securely gathered. Then his gaze falls upon dense thickets that most people would consider just ordinary, pesky weeds to be immediately pulled out. But the wanderer sees something entirely different in them. This is nettle. Yes, that cunning and stinging nettle. But its young, most tender leaves, especially those that have just appeared in early spring or grown after a heavy summer rain, are a true treasure trove of vital vitamins and minerals. Carefully, using the thick work gloves he always carries, he plucks the topmost, most delicate leaves. They will make an excellent, incredibly beneficial addition to his future soup, or simply be boiled as a humble but satisfying side dish. Nettle, though stinging, completely loses its biting properties when cooked, and becomes not only incredibly useful, but also surprisingly delicious, with a light, pleasant, herbaceous flavor. He continues his journey, following a barely visible, worn path, likely made by wild animals heading to drink. His keen hearing picks up a subtle, barely audible sound, the gentle, enchanting murmur of water. This is exactly what he was looking for. A stream, clear, swift, carrying its waters over a stony bed, icy, yet so inviting. The ideal place to thoroughly wash his modest but precious harvest. He descends to the very bank, where the transparent water washes over smooth, time-polished stones. He takes off his travel bag, carefully laying out all its contents onto a large, flat stone conveniently positioned right at the water's edge. The sound of the stream here is especially distinct and varied. It's not just a monotonous hum. It's a living symphony of nature performed right here at his feet. A gentle gurgle, barely audible, but creating a soothing background noise. Then the splash of tiny, fleeting eddies that appear and vanish, carried away by the current. And, of course, the soft, lulling rustle of leaves carried by the water. In this secluded spot, time seems to slow its pace, sometimes even stopping entirely. The wanderer kneels, his hands plunging into the icy, biting cold water of the stream. First, he washes the delicate leaves of nettle and aromatic wild garlic, carefully but thoroughly rinsing off particles of earth and trail dust. Then it's the turn of the sturdier burdock roots. He meticulously cleans them of all remaining soil, using his sharp, reliable knife to peel off the thin outer layer like ordinary skin. The water, like a magician, carries away all that is superfluous, leaving only absolutely clean, fresh, shining gifts of the forest. He examines and feels each item, each plant, as if in silent gratitude to it. The cleaning process itself doesn't take long, but there's something deeply meditative, almost sacred about it. The icy water not only invigorates the body, but also clears the mind, and contemplating the pure, continuously flowing element soothes the deepest anxieties. He feels himself an integral part of this flow, merging with it into a single whole. Once everything is washed, the wanderer carefully and gently places his gathered treasures back into his bag, ready for the next leg of his journey. Now, it's time to find a suitable spot for the night, finally build a fire, and prepare his long-awaited supper. He moves on, following the winding stream, until he finds the perfect spot, a small, incredibly cozy niche under an overhanging rock, which provides excellent natural protection from the biting wind and is dry enough for a comfortable rest. Nearby, there are plenty of fallen dry branches and dead wood, ideal, easily accessible fuel for a future campfire. This isn't just a random spot, it's his temporary home for one night, and he treats it with the same deep respect as he would his permanent dwelling. First things first, collecting firewood. The wanderer knows that for a good, hot fire, 3 essential things are needed, 3 elements without which it can't be done. Tinder, very fine, easily ignitable material that serves as the spark's first fuel. Kindling, small twigs, dry bark, thin shavings that catch fire from the tinder. And finally, the firewood itself, larger logs and branches that will burn long and provide stable heat. He gathers dry moss, thin, brittle twigs, dry, withered grass, then thicker, but absolutely dry branches that easily snap with a characteristic, resonant crack, confirming their dryness and readiness to burn. It's crucial for the wood to be dry. Otherwise, the fire will smoke heavily, burn poorly, and not provide the necessary warmth. Once all the necessary wood is collected and arranged in order of use, he begins the ritual itself, building a fire. It's an ancient, almost mystical ritual that connects a person to their earliest ancestors living in caves. He takes out his reliable fire steel, and a shower of sparks hits the prepared tinder. First, a thin, barely visible wisp of smoke appears, then a tiny, pulsating ember that slowly but surely begins to glow. The wanderer carefully brings it close to the kindling, slowly and steadily fanning it. His breath is even, calm, concentrated, as if he's performing the most important task in the world. With each exhale, the ember glows brighter and brighter until, finally, a small but confident flame appears. There it is, a real miracle. A small, living flame eagerly licks at the dry twigs, and soon a full, merrily crackling campfire is blazing. The crackling of the wood fills the air, creating a cozy auditory backdrop, and a light, aromatic smoke rises to the evening sky, carrying away all the worries and anxieties of the day. He sets his small, well-worn pot, blackened from many past campfires, directly over the flames on a specially prepared crossbar. This pot is his portable mini kitchen, his only cooking vessel. Into it, he pours the purest water, recently drawn from the stream. While the water slowly begins to boil, the wanderer starts preparing his gathered vegetables. He takes out the pre-cleaned burdock roots, cutting them into small, neat pieces that from afar could be mistaken for young potato chunks. He also finely chops the nettle and aromatic wild garlic, turning them into an aromatic green mass. All these actions are simple, but each is filled with deep meaning and a clear purpose. Every movement is precise and efficient. The water in the pot begins to bubble energetically, signaling the imminent start of the meal. First, the sliced burdock roots go into the boiling water. They need a bit more cooking time to become sufficiently soft, tender, and, most importantly, edible. Then, when the roots are almost ready, the wanderer adds the chopped nettle and aromatic wild garlic. The greens cook very quickly, and it's crucial not to overcook them to preserve maximum nutrients and their natural, fresh taste, which is so valued in the wild. The aroma, that's what now fills the entire air around him, enveloping him in a thick, warm cloud. The scent of wild garlic, so recognizable and pungent, blended with the earthy, slightly nutty smell of burdock and the freshness of nettle. These aren't the aromas of a gourmet restaurant, no. These are the smells of the forest, the smells of life itself, the smells of freedom and independence. This aroma is far more precious than any, even the most expensive and refined perfume. It speaks of simplicity, purity, and true, unadulterated nourishment. The wanderer slowly and thoughtfully stirs his wild soup with a wooden spoon. The campfire throws whimsical flickers onto his face, illuminating every wrinkle, every trace left by the sun and wind on his skin. In his deep eyes, the dancing flame is reflected, and in that reflection, an extraordinary tranquility, calmness, and an ancient wisdom can be read. This is not just food. It's an entire ritual, an act of profound gratitude to nature, to the earth, to existence itself. When the soup reaches the right consistency and is fully cooked, he carefully but confidently removes the pot from the fire. Thick steam rises above the hot liquid, creating a delicate, enticing cloud enveloped in the forest aroma. He pours a portion into his old but reliable mug, blackened from many past meals. No extra plates, no unnecessary cutlery, except for his trusty spoon. Simplicity in everything. Simplicity as a way of life. The first sip. Hot, even scalding, but so rich, so alive, filling every cell of his body. The taste of earth, the taste of clean water, the taste of the sun, imbued with fresh forest air. The burdock is soft, slightly sweet, with a barely perceptible nutty undertone. The nettle adds a light, pleasant tartness, and the wild garlic, a pungent sharpness, reminiscent of garlic, but milder and fresher. It's a perfect, harmonious combination of flavors, gifted by nature itself. Absolute silence surrounds him. Only the quiet, lulling crackle of the campfire, the light, almost inaudible rustle of the wind in the tall tree crowns, and occasionally a distant, mysterious call of a night bird breaking this blissful quiet. This isn't emptiness. On the contrary, it's a complete fullness with the sounds of nature itself. No distractions, no news from the outside world, no gadgets, no extraneous noises. Just him, his simple yet incredibly delicious food, and the endless star-studded night abyss above his head. Every movement, every inhale and exhale becomes conscious, filled with deep meaning. He eats slowly, savoring each piece, each sip, as if trying to prolong this moment of profound tranquility and unity with the world. This meal isn't just a supper to quell hunger. It's an entire lesson. A lesson in self-sufficiency, in how true happiness and complete satisfaction don't require much, don't require excess. That true wealth isn't found in material things, not in accumulation, but in the ability to live in harmony with the surrounding world, using its generous gifts with wisdom and deep, sincere respect. A feeling of deep, genuine contentment fills him. Not only his stomach, but his very soul is nourished. This is that very feeling, that cannot be bought for any money. It's a feeling of absolute freedom and complete belonging to something eternal, something vast. When the mug is empty, the wanderer sets it aside, placing it next to him. He sits by the fire for a while longer, watching the whimsically dancing flames, their hypnotic light. His thoughts are clear, his heart calm, and his mind crystal clear. He feels tired, but it's a pleasant, noble weariness that only comes after a day spent in motion, in harmonious communion with the wild nature that has given him shelter and sustenance. He thinks about how many more unsolved mysteries this forest holds, how much more can be learned if one is attentive, curious, and open to knowledge. It's time to extinguish the fire. He leaves absolutely no trace behind. This is another of his unbreakable rules, his personal code. The fire must be put out thoroughly, down to the very last, barely glowing ember, so as to leave no danger to the forest, no threat of fire. He rakes the coals, douses them generously with water from the stream, stirs them, ensuring there's not the slightest sign of smoldering, not the slightest spark. Then he covers the fire pit with earth and fallen leaves, restoring it to its pristine, untouched appearance. No one should ever know I was here. The thought crosses his mind. He settles down to sleep under the open, boundless sky, wrapped in his warm sleeping bag. The stars seem much brighter and closer than anywhere else, each point in the firmament shining like a diamond. The air is fresh, clean, and filled with the aromas of the forest. Only the lulling whisper of the wind rustling through the tree crowns can be heard, and occasionally a distant, drawn-out hoot of an owl guarding the night forest. He closes his eyes, and the last thing he distinctly feels is the subtle, barely perceptible scent of smoke from the campfire still lingering in the air, mixing with the smell of damp earth and wet grass. He falls asleep with a feeling of profound gratitude and complete, serene peace that only wild nature can provide. This tracker's meal is far more than just food. It's something greater than simply satisfying hunger. It's an entire philosophy, a philosophy of life where humanity returns to its true origins, to simplicity, to naturalness, to harmony with oneself and the surrounding world. It's a powerful reminder that everything we truly need for happiness and a fulfilling life is often right at our feet, if only we know how to see it, how to appreciate it, and how to use it with deep respect, and most importantly, to be genuinely grateful for it. Because nature is always, without exception, generous if you treat it with love and care. Remember this the next time you find yourself in a forest, when you breathe in its clean air. Perhaps you too will see something far more than just trees in it, something much deeper and more significant. If you found this journey into the wild inspiring, please give this video a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of nature's wisdom. And tell us in the comments below, what's your favorite way to connect with the wild?